Hey there! I wanted to talk a little bit about Avatar The Last Airbender, specifically the live action remake, and specifically, how it appears to be watering down the feminist themes of the original. To start off with the proper context, Variety reported on January 29, 2024, that, quote, Netflix's live action Avatar series took out how sexist Sokka was in the original, end quote. The article goes on to quote cast members Kia Wentio and Ian Owsley, who said, respectively, in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, that, quote, we took out the element of how sexist Sokka was. I feel like there were a lot of moments in the original show that were iffy, end quote. And, quote, there are things that were redirected just because it might play a little differently in live action, end quote. This was widely dunked on over on Twitter by pretty much everyone. And there's a reason for that, because the comments, or rather the decisions being referenced by the comments, betray a fundamental misunderstanding of the source material. Based on these comments, it sounds as if the people working on the live action remake of Avatar The Last Airbender believe that the sexism was an accidental inclusion in the original show, and not an intentional choice included as a critique of patriarchy. It's basically a whoosh moment, as they completely miss the very obvious themes present in the text they're trying to adapt. Conservatives will tell you that the sexism is being toned down because of wokeism or the woke mind virus. In fact, I've seen conservatives say that, which seems kind of like a self report to me if their argument is just that it's bad when there's no sexism, as if it's the sexism in itself that has value. But let me tell you, the reason why this change is bad is not because there's less sexism, and the reason for the change isn't wokeism or whatever. In fact, the opposite is true. The original show was woke, and the sexism presented in the show was part of its overall feminist and anti patriarchal themes. The reason why it's bad to remove the sexism isn't because sexism is okay, actually, but because watering down the feminist themes of the original show for the live action version is bad, actually. They're literally making the show less woke. Although the original Avatar is one of the best written shows of all time, it's not always subtle. The show goes to great lengths to make its themes quite obvious. You know, themes such as anti imperialism, anti nationalism, and of course, anti patriarchy. Because it is fundamentally a progressive and feminist show that celebrates diversity and critiques oppressive systems. One very obvious example of that is in the 18th episode of Book 1, The Waterbending Master, in which Katara wants to be trained by Paku, who refuses her request because she is a girl, and in the Northern Water Tribe, it is customary that girls learn to heal with their abilities, not fight. He even tells her condescendingly to, quote, go back to the healing huts with the other women where she belongs, end quote. This culminates in a fight between the two, in which Katara exceeds the expectations Paku had of a girl, yet in the end she still loses because, well, he is a waterbending master after all. But Paku then finds the betrothal necklace Katara had inherited from her grandmother, and it is revealed that her grandmother was supposed to marry Paku 60 years ago but left because of the oppressive customs of the Northern Water Tribe. And maybe, just maybe, Paku starts to understand just how wrong he was, because he then agreed to train Katara. But to the point of the comments made by Kia Wentio and Ian Owsley, the earliest example of feminist themes in Avatar is indeed Sokka's attitude toward women. Sokka was portrayed as being a chauvinist who had been taught that men were better suited for certain things and women for others, same as Paku, learned behavior from being socialized in patriarchal cultures. This belief wasn't endorsed by the show. In fact, it was a character flaw that very early on in the show put Sokka on his ass, literally. In the 4th episode of the show, The Warriors of Kyoshi, Sokka's sexism is highlighted quite directly as a plot point. Early on in the episode, Katara is fixing Sokka's pants. Sokka tells Aang to stop bothering her while she is sewing because, quote, you need to give girls space when they do their sewing, end quote. Katara snaps back, quote, what does me being a girl have to do with sewing, end quote. To this, Sokka replies, quote, simple, girls are better at fixing pants than guys, and guys are better at hunting and fighting and stuff like that. It's just the natural order of things, end quote. Katara, angered by his sexist comments, tosses the pants in his face to comedic effect. Later in the episode, the gang gets captured and blindfolded by mysterious warriors. When the blindfold is removed, it appears that a group of female warriors were behind it, led by Suki. Sokka's immediate thought is, quote, where are the men who ambushed us, end quote. When it is revealed to him that there were no men, he spits out that, quote, there's no way that a bunch of girls took us down, end quote. After this, Sokka is upset and refuses to eat, because he was beaten by girls, even making excuses for it. Quote, sneak attacks don't count, end quote. His pride wounded, he storms off to restore it by beating up the girl warriors in a fair fight, I guess? He interrupts them during a training session, condescendingly remarking that he, quote, didn't mean to interrupt their dance lesson, end quote, and that he'd normally hold a grudge, but he'll make an exception because they are girls. Suki sarcastically responds that they wouldn't stand a chance against a big, strong man like him, and he misses all of the snark and takes the comment earnestly, saying that he is, after all, the best warrior in his village. Feigning how impressed she is by this, Suki asks if Sokka wouldn't mind demonstrating his skill. In the fight that ensues, Suki puts him on his ass, twice, this time in a fair fight, no sneak attacks. A while later, Sokka returns, but this time, humbled, he falls to his knees, says he was wrong, and asks them to train him. The episode has now shown us, instead of told us, that patriarchal gender roles are wrong, and it could never have done so without also showing us sexism. Better yet, showing us a sexist being knocked on his pompous ass and growing from the experience. Sokka was never a bad person, he wasn't a villain, but he was severely misguided and was an example of how everyone, even otherwise good people, can fall victim to the essentialist thinking of patriarchy, yet also grow and become better. This is unambiguously a feminist theme. It's not even all that subtle, yet this type of sexism does exist in the real world, today. Pretending it doesn't exist by refusing to portray it doesn't seem right to me. And perhaps it didn't seem right to the original show's creators either, because Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino, sorry if I butcher those names, according to Variety, quote, spent 2 years developing the live-action adaptation for Netflix before they shocked fans by announcing their exit due to creative differences, end quote. I'm not sure we know what creative differences they're referring to exactly, but misunderstanding the core themes of the original and wanting to cut out major plot points and character development might just be major suspects, but I'm just speculating here. So, in the grand scheme of things, what does all this mean? Well, it means that I have less faith in the live action remake of Avatar The Last Airbender, because it seems they are cutting out important feminist themes from the original show in a misguided attempt to make it less offensive, but in so doing are only making a milquetoast shadow of the masterpiece that was the original show. It's impossible to say without having watched it, but it could mean that the people making the live action version haven't understood the source material. And if they haven't understood it, how could they possibly adapt it? I'm not the kind of person who believes adaptations need to be done at a 1-to-1 scale. I think making changes can sometimes be an opportunity, not to improve, but to make something fresh. However, what I can't abide by is when adaptations fail to grasp the core ideas and themes of the source material, and instead reduce it all down to generic slop. Whether that is the case here, time will tell, as the show will debut on February 22nd. But this news does not exactly inspire confidence in me. Anyway, thanks for listening. What are your thoughts on all this? Share in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode of Patrication.